I believe that the essence of life is really in the subtle energies, the sunlight, the vibrational applications, and the extractions of those vibrations and importing them to be part, like enveloping us, to enable us to be healthy within our own subset, and then to shed that energy to the closest person to you.
Welcome to Metabolic Matters podcast, where we embark on conversations with thought leaders, disruptors, change agents, and passionate souls. I'm your host, Dr. Nasha Winters. Diagnosed with terminal cancer at 19 years old, my journey led me to become an integrative oncology specialist and champion of metabolic healing. Together, we'll delve into what truly matters to our guests and how you can metabolize that wisdom to transform your own metabolic health. Now let's meet today's guests. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am Dr. Nasha Winters, and today on Metabolic Matters, this is where we explore the science, the stories, and the soul of healing. Because health is more than the absence of disease, it's the presence of vitality. And today I'm talking to an expert on vitality. I'm joined by someone I not only deeply admire, but have shared many miles of this wellness journey with, Robby Besner. Robby is the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder with his lovely sidekick Melody of Therasage, a company born from love, urgency, and relentless innovation after his daughter's Lyme diagnosis. In search for the answers, Robby pioneered infrared technologies that now reach homes and clinics around the world. But if you ask him, he's not just an inventor. He's a father, a husband, a student of nature who believes wellness must be accessible, heart-centered, and grounded in both science and soul. We're diving into infrared therapy, detoxification, emotional and spiritual terrain, and the power of community to change the way we heal. Let's get started. I am thrilled to have my dear friend Robby in the room with us today. And my gosh, this man, you're going to find that he's probably lived multiple lives with so many living experiences that have brought him to this moment. But Robby, why don't you start by just telling everybody just a little brief, who are you? And then we'll dive into the juicy stuff.
I am the co-founder of a company called Therasage, and I'm the device developer or the science officer for the team, for the company. And spend most of my time researching and trying to connect the dots between the natural and the supernatural, like us all being supernatural and having those innate abilities to heal, that we just are such an untapped resource, and trying to connect today's world to the disconnected world that people are, to nature and to each other these days, in that way. And so sounds kind of like a little off the fringe a little bit. But you know what? I've noticed over the years that I'm usually a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of the momentum and things that I notice. And I take all of this information and I kind of incorporate it into things that we develop here, the science that we bring forward.
Yeah, I would say a couple things about you just to reflect back. I mean, definitely you are a dot connector like no other. You are a systems thinker. You are a networker. You seem to find all the yummiest people and bring them all together. It's just been a joy to kind of be in that wake, experience it firsthand. But I'm just curious, like, has this always been the way you've been, or was there a life experience, or was there something that made you start thinking a little bit differently? Like you said, fringe, but not fringe like, oh, this isn't the good stuff. Like fringe, like you're just ahead of the curve. Like, where did this begin for you?
Well, technically, in the position at Therasage, it's probably started in and around the time when my daughter, my oldest child, contracted Lyme disease. The downloads and the speaking in the information that somehow I feel like I'm very connected to source. And that started really at a very young age, like 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that.
Give me an example of maybe what you noticed when you were that little kid.
Well, you've probably seen documentaries or storytelling type expressions of children that have these relationships with beings. Really, it's kind of like their fantasies. Like, back in the day, I'm a little older than you, no, way older than you. But back in my day, when you're young, like you would never talk about that too much, or your parents would never talk about that too much among themselves because, they would think that would be somewhat abnormal in a way, And I'm loving the age we're in now because people are really embracing their relationship to higher source. So now when I think back, in those days, I had a somewhat active, engaging dialogue with my collective beings, intelligence,
Wow.
Yeah. And like most kids, I think I spent most of my adolescence ignoring it because I just said, hey, look, this is just sort of noise. What's that all about? And then later on, like in late teens, early 20s, I just started to have a more active dialogue. And even now while I'm talking to you, I'm having a dialogue. So there's a lot of different vibrational things going on at once. But point being, the game I started playing was just asking very simple questions like, how do I feel about this? And what I'd have is this voice inside of me that would give me a response. And sometimes it was very, very clear. Like I almost feel like it was Chat GPT back then, because for me, it would be like if the more specific the question, usually it would be down to a yes or a no. And then you get very specific answers. And what I started to understand was that my intuitive sense, that connection to source, was basically right almost 100% of the time.
Chills.
Yeah.
And you started to listen to that and trust that more and more. Yeah,
that's what it was. It was the more I asked, the more I became cognizant of the answer. In the beginning, I was ignoring. They'd say white, I go black. They say go left, I go right. Just because, like, come on, really? Like, give me a break. You can't be right all the time, And then usually like around the late 20s, early 30s, I said, like, duh, ask the question, follow the rule, follow the answer. And that was a game changer.
One of the things I like about you is you assume that we all have that capability, and that you even encourage that in some of the innovations you've created. Can I think help support that to some degree. You don't have any judgment or, weirdness around it. I just think it's really extraordinary that you've allowed them. That's what innovation is, right? It's asking different questions and getting different answers. And you just keep showing up in that curious space over and over and over again. And you seem to invoke that in all of the people that you touch.
Yes, we all have these superpowers. That's all I can say. And you could decide to tune into it or not, and, understand how it serves you. What place in your life does it, and I have always admired women as in general, and I'm trying not to generalize, but you're so tapped into that intuitive side more so than guys are. And again, I don't want to necessarily generalize, because there are a lot of men that I meet that are very in touch with their feminine side. And so they're very actively engaged in that kind of a relationship. But I've always noticed and been kind of jealous of it, because I wanted more of that for me, not realizing that I had it all along. It's like the alchemist. It's right in your front yard, So I'm happy to share that. And it actually came out in a discussion on stage once when someone said, where do you get your ideas from? And that's where it is their downloads, and I go with it. And it's amazing how it served me, and more
And all
importantly,
of
how
us.
it's allowed me to serve you. Yeah.
Wow. It's funny, just a couple hours ago, I was on a call with another doctor we were on a podcast. I was on his podcast, and he was literally speaking to this fact that women have larger corpus callosum, which are the connecting bridge between the right and the left brains. And they're far larger than that for men. And it's so funny because I think you can develop that. I mean, that's what we've
Yeah.
seen, that we actually can change and grow our corpus callosum and create that bridge between the right and left brain. But you got your start from, a very strong woman in your life, and that woman being your daughter. Where Therasage was born, and then you've got a very strong partner. I heard you guys giving smoochy faces before we started our call today. So you've got some big corpus callosums hovering around you, my friend. But I know that oftentimes a mission as big as yours comes with extreme, kind of pain to purpose. And I know that this had the similar vibe for you. Can you tell us where this sort of mission was born, in that sense of urgency and love? And what was the first moment when you thought, wow, there's something here. We've got something really special, despite the painful journey that it took to get to that moment?
So I think you're referencing sort of the genesis of our company in a way. My daughter, we just happened to understand that she contracted Lyme disease. We were living in South Florida. So Lyme disease, the ground zero is the tri-state area around Lyme, Connecticut, and New Jersey, New York-ish. So there really wasn't, and I'm going now back 27 years. Okay. So back then, Lyme really being in Florida wasn't on the main radar, so to speak. She was experiencing abdomen uncomfortableness, which we understood to be endometriosis. And so we sought a surgical response, a therapy for that, which supposedly 99% of the women that have this little microsurgery, they're not in pain anymore. They completely recover. Everything is great. And that wasn't our experience. After 3 months, Julia was still in a lot of pain. And so digging deeper and saying to this surgical group, well, what's up with this? I mean, we were at, such a high statistical possibility of success than what's going on. So what I finally got from them was 100% of the women that don't recover have Lyme disease. That's how we discovered she had it, because it wasn't really anything back then. It wasn't really on our radar per se. And it wasn't like we were in the tri-state area. And it wasn't like she had classically we found a tick on her and she had a bullseye rash, and there was none of that. So then we are, I should say without judgment, that we're kind of a naturopathic family. We believe in homeopathy and frequencies and in healing the body naturally. But at that time, and even today, many of the accepted protocols for Lyme disease were using interacting antibiotics, caustic antibiotics, and different cocktail formulations. So we sought and were able to align with the top Lyme literate doctor of that time, and probably still is, Dr. Joe Brioscano. He was in New York.
Yeah, wow.
And so Melody and I, my wife, would travel. We'd take turns traveling up to New York every 6 weeks to get Julia's protocol tweaked. And now we're not, back in the day, we didn't have virtual medicine. There was actually a collaboration between the Lyme literate doctor, a local doctor in Florida. They talked about one another. If a little bit about Lyme, there's a pain doctor, a psychiatrist, an emotional healer. There's all these, it wasn't long before Julia had an entourage of practitioners around her. And then there's Robby. And I'm looking at all this stuff, which was unnatural to me, but yet it was the most accepted protocols at the time, this sort of Western approach to it. So Julia, collectively as a family, we decided to go that route. But while that was happening, I started spinning my own plate. And that was taking a look at the way she was expressing herself. And that's sort of the way I look at healthcare in general. It's like the body is full of signs, and you can choose to accept them and understand that that's what they are. They're giving you signals of discomfort, of disharmony, of disease, of dysbiosis. It depends on where it's settled. But basically, it gives us an opportunity to look a little bit closer if you're willing to embrace the signs. Unfortunately, a lot in America, and it's something that I talk about too often, we ignore that. We just go about our business. We're in gym class, no pain, no gain. And we go on to a point where we work ourselves into a corner that involves a lot more invasive type of procedures in order for us to try to get back to center in a way. Anyway, she had some cognitive challenges, some pain challenges. And so what my perception, she had high levels of toxicity and inflammation. And so I centered on best methods to detox. I discovered 27 years ago that there are wavelengths of sunlight that when those frequencies come into the body, they actually shake loose, mobilize all the poisons inside of you. And so I thought, wow, this is it. Like I found the Holy Grail. And at that time, Nasha, the only people that were using infrared, I'm talking about the infrared spectrum now. And the only people in the medical community that were using infrared frequencies were sports medicine doctors to help players lower their pain thresholds and heal, get back on the field faster, all of which intrigued me. So I organized a trip, 3.5 months, went to China, interviewed 65 factories, and started to develop devices basically for personal use. And Julia responded so incredibly well. And Dr. Joe and some of his cohorts said, hey, this is too important for just for you or just for ourselves. Let's bring this into our community. And that essentially was how we got started.
Wow.
Just no venture capital, no business plan. Yeah.
I mean, truly just necessity and love and curiosity and creativity. Like you just, the whole thing that innovates us as humans, you tapped into every bit of it and not just found tools that would support your daughter, but now it's now like you can't walk 2 feet right now without stepping on someone talking about far infrared or near infrared or red light or IR therapies. Like it's incredible. When you say 27 years, I have to really stop myself and imagine the climate you were in at that time and also how probably very lonely it must have been.
That's exactly the word that was coming to my mind. And, I think if there's some messages through this time together for the audience and people tuning in, it's one of the ones for me to impart is about being unwavering.
Whew, that gave me chills.
Yeah. Cause it's just like you said, like then, I remember giving a presentation to 250 orthopedic surgeons at a stem cell conference about 10 years ago. And I was the first presenter, early in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. I get on stage and I prepared a 300 level presentation. These are very educated. This is a practical weekend so that they were working with cadavers. They were learning didactics and they were also practicing. So I get on stage and I said to the audience, raise your hand if you know anything about infrared. I got one doctor in the way back that raised his hand. Like you say, like now, like it's very current, and that's actually really exciting for me because it's a big world out there. There's so much information, and the more eyes and the more interaction and the more lives that these subtle energies are touching and the understanding about the importance of subtle energies, I think that is a big topic to talk about.
Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Nasha Winters. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you know my North Star is this: stop chasing symptoms and start rebuilding health from the ground up. That's why we created Metabolic Regen. an education platform rooted in the Terrain 10, the framework that I've learned to apply to myself and to tens of thousands of patients over 2 decades of clinical practice and cancer care. This isn't about cramming more protocols into your brain. It's about learning to think differently, to see patterns, to read the body's terrain, and to meet patients, or even yourself, where you are. Whether you're a clinician just starting your integrative journey, or a seasoned practitioner ready to bring metabolic and mitochondrial medicine to your toolkit, Metabolic Regen is here to support you. Inside, you will find immersive courses, real case studies, mentorship, and a global network of like-minded colleagues, all of us pulling together to change the story of medicine. If you're ready to be part of that shift, join us at metabolicregen.com. Let's rebuild medicine from the mitochondria out. Wow. And I feel that you and Melody, Therasage is instrumental in making this a household name. I feel like you come up all the time in the medical healing, the conventional medical space, the integrated medical space. You guys have really paved the way, which is super exciting to me. And, I'm curious, what did you first notice when you began experimenting with these light frequency therapies? What did you notice first? Maybe, was it lab metrics that you saw changing? Was it a look in your daughter's eye? Was it a shift in her energy or your energy, or just general day-to-day resilience? What did you first note that, holy cow, there is something to this?
Great question. Lyme disease is a funny one because it mimics many other diseases. And so early on, and Melody used to criticize me because my daughter was really beautiful and she was super smart. And I always felt like and it's very common that people that have chronic challenges, they kind of can hide behind their diagnosis, meaning that they don't quite, they're always getting a free pass. They're getting empathy from people because they're not feeling well and all that, And so they don't really have to do as much. They get a lot of attention without having to do as much. And so it's always a little bit harder. And Melody would say to me, you treat your patients better than you treat your daughter, because I just wanted her to be as much as she could be for herself. And then as soon as one day that light went off in my head, I go, yeah, wow. It is true about what they say. People, you have to meet them at their own level in a way. And for me with Julia, there were a lot of epiphanies. And I cherished every moment. I was basically her home nurse, because using the injectables and things that she was, I have a healthcare background, so I was skilled at this. But it gave me an opportunity to spend more time with her than most parents do with their kids, especially in their adolescence and, as they're growing up. And I think she taught me so much. And one of the things another big message, and I do things in story, and I hope I'm not boring.
I love it. Keep it going, my friend. No.
Okay. So, we live in a split level in Florida, and Julie was at the top of the stairs, and I didn't notice her through the corner of my eye, but I was downstairs, and we had this island in the kitchen, and I was making myself a cup of coffee, and I just turned like this to place the coffee cup on the island, and I couldn't find any room on this huge, big island because it was filled with her medications. I couldn't find room for my cup of coffee. So I'm trying to negotiate a bottle of her medicine around. And then I noticed her through the corner of my eye at the top of the stairs. And I looked at her and I said, Julia, can you ever imagine living or being having a life without these medications? And she said, no, I'm always going to be on something. So if you truly believe you're always going to be on something, you'll always be on something. And that's what we do, you and I do. We kind of try to shift that consciousness to have people understand that we're so much more powerful than the world will allow us to think that we are. And you're the poster child for this. Nasha, because everything that you do, all the cohorts, that the whole organization, everything you've dedicated your life to is shifting that consciousness and making people understand how powerful their innate ability to heal is. And you've done, I've been in the audience of your groups. I mean, some of the people have talked about candidly reversing many different types of chronic challenges that, normal medicine just writes off and says, sorry, I can't help you, can't help you, can't help you, So we are truly way more powerful than we think.
I love that. And I love that you had, talk about a moment that for you was a fork in the road. It might not have been for Julia. Well, it was, I guess, maybe on one level, because I know she's no longer with us. But I know all of her work. I've never met this young woman. I only met you shortly after she had passed. And I feel like I know her.
Yeah.
Like she's still living on and through this. And even what you just told us of the story of the cat, that moment, even if she wasn't able to see or believe a different existence, that story is helping other people see and believe and live a different existence.
Yeah. Yeah. But in that moment for me, it was pivotal because I realized that it wasn't the emotional component to healing is equal to whatever you do therapeutically.
Yes.
And I think that's an area of development. And I know that you spent a lot of time leaning into this, that really Western medicine doesn't really touch on. And is so important in order for you to fully heal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen it in cases with cancer, particularly like, why do we go into remission and then we have a relapse? What's the relapse about? Why is that happening? Because we just haven't completely healed. And most of it's because we've completely discounted the emotional trauma that's related to a chronic challenge.
Man, you say it best. I've heard you say this in multiple times, just one-on-one and up on stages. You've said that healing is as much about the soul as the cell. And this is precisely what you're speaking to, that, this is one of your big whys. This is one of your big drivers. And so, I love that we brought that up, but there is that tangible side too. You said your first instinct with your daughter was very much about inflammation and toxicity.
Yeah.
And a lot of the resources you've brought forth in the world and to clinicians like myself, patients that we serve, are about dealing with that everyday toxicity and that environmental burden. So knowing what you and I both feel foundationally is still like a belief system, a soul versus cell component, you still need to deal with the cell. And so can we shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about that burden, right? A little bit about these unseen burdens that you teach about so well, EMFs, chemical exposures, indoor air quality, that just literally silently shape our metabolic health and our life experience. And so how do you teach what you call toxic awareness or toxic awareness lens for someone who's really new to this? Where do you begin on teaching the 98% that don't even know that everything they're putting in, on, and around them is contributing to how they feel and how they show up in the world?
Wow. That's a compound question.
It is a lot. So you kind of unpack whatever you feel.
Yeah. I think we have a tendency to overcomplicate stuff. I think I love just teaching about primal healing, what I call primal healing, looking at just the basic resources, good air, good water, good food, and sunlight,
Best doctors ever.
in some combination, right? And then tuning into your inner doctor. Like I call my inner doctor my inner Elmo. So I have my dialogue with my inner Elmo, But yeah, just listening to that voice. And so and I also believe that, if you look at some of I'm a nerd. I have to self-proclaimed. Okay. And, so I read and live on these statistics and things. And, we spend 70 to 80% of our lives. This is, now probably even closer to 80 post-COVID, but prior to that, in our homes, And there's so many things that we have control over that we don't realize we do. So part of it is having an understanding that the agencies like the EPA and the FDA and all that stuff, that, we're as a culture, Western culture, we've been led to believe that they protect us, but in fact, they're not really protecting us as much as we would like to. I'm not coming from a place of judgment. I'm just reporting this. And so it's really the onus is on us. And so, being a parent, like you have put a roof over your head and, you have control. There's certain things we do have control over, And so like even just going down in a regular supermarket, there are two aisles that drive me crazy. One is the cereal aisle, the breakfast cereal aisle. The visuals I have to avoid it. In fact, when I walk into a new, food store, I ask where the aisle is so I can avoid it because the visuals on that aisle drives me crazy. The other one is the household chemicals, like your laundry detergents and the things that we take for granted that, if you just went and did an inventory in your home. And so, point being is that yes, the world is getting more toxic outside. And some of that stuff we don't have control over, like chemtrails and glyphosates and all the big headlines that, integrative functional medicine is embracing, and the environmentalists, like we often find ourselves at those conferences together, are spend their whole lives thinking about that stuff. But that's great on that level from an understanding both didactically and emotionally and also physically. But what can we do to make a change? And I think it starts in the home.
One of my favorite things I've asked of you before, and you've answered this in other environments, was what do you think in a typical household would shock people the most about their daily environment?
Well, the number one I usually ask is, what do you think is the worst chemical in your house to use? And it's your laundry detergent, which you'd never think that. But the scent, makes your clothes smell good, right? But that's a chemical. And the color of that might be very attractive, but that's a chemical. And those chemicals are on your clothing. And after you're done, it smells good, but you're sleeping on those sheets and your head's on that pillow and it's in your t-shirts and it's leaching through your skin into your body.
Yeah. Your largest organ of absorption.
Yeah.
Covering 3/4 or more of your body with that chemical cocktail.
Yeah. And if it's disarming, but if you took an inventory, I think they say there's 300 to 400 chemicals found in everyone's household. And there's a great author and friend of ours, Darren Olean, who wrote a book called Fatal Conveniences. And the book is completely about that. It's a dictionary and a Britannica about the things that you find in your home that you can just, buy this, not that. Just simple things that you can replace that can make a huge difference. Now, 70 to 80% of your time is in your home. So, the mold in the air you can control. You can filter that. You can filter your water so that you have more bioavailable water, which is your transport system to help your cells methylate and heal. I believe that in essence, we get sick on a cellular level and we heal on a cellular level. But your cells have a life cycle to them. And so that if you hang in long enough, you can recycle and actually, get into a healthier mode once you kind of draw a little baseline and then move from there. And this is not that complicated. It really isn't. I think today, which I'm totally loving, Nasha, is that people are taking a lot more responsibility for their healthcare. I think post-COVID, people are understanding that the agencies and the hospitals and the Western approach there's certainly a place for it, but it may not be the first place. But we've been made to believe or led to believe that it's the first place to go. And I think I love the idea that we can make real change. It starts with these kinds of dialogues, right?
Yeah. My gosh, when I come up to one of your booths at a conference, I feel like a kid in a candy store, right? Because there's always new devices and tools that you're bringing to market, but you have some of the fundamentals. Sort of like you talked about just like starting at home, some of these very basics, something I take around with me everywhere I travel, because I'm usually on an airplane all the dang time. I wear some of your devices just to help me with the exposure radiation on those airplanes. When I'm in a hotel room and I'm far away from the ocean, I'm playing, I've got your little portable. In fact, that I had one, I think it's in my far infrared sauna, which is yours as well right now.
Yeah.
My little portable ionizer and portable ozonator, which helps me when I'm out of my hotel room. I have the ozonator going to kill all the typically mold and other weird pathogens in the air. And then when I'm sleeping at night, I like the ionizer going, or working in my hotel room, I have that going to help kind of just charge my inner batteries. Like, there's so many great little tools that I feel like I have gratitude to Therasage every single day. But if you could offer 3 things for someone who's just getting started in a home that they're just now learning about those 300 chemicals exposures, what 3 items would you strongly suggest somebody starts with in their home?
Of the things that we make like our catalog?
Well, or anybody,
in general?
anybody, but you guys kind of usually said, we need it, we're create it. You innovated into what we all use, but in general, but also specific to what you carry.
Yeah. I think light exposure is important. Sleep is so, sleep is to me, one of the most important things. Even the things we talk about, Nasha, you don't have, I think sometimes, again, we over intellectualize. I think sometimes we think that we have to spend a lot of money in order for us to get, the benefit. Just doing breath work is something that I've loved doing. Working with your vagal tone, and stimulating your lymphatic system just through movement. Really simple things to do. And it's just about education. I think that there is a natural order. So I love a couple of things: understanding sequencing in nature, and also understanding the dosing, because your body is a little different than mine. We're really both fine-tuned instruments. And so we're just, in order for us to make good music together, we have to make sure that we're tuned up properly, And so I think that's part of it. Again, that back to the inner Elmo and me, just being, following that understanding and that sensitivity. The 3 things that I think are important is sleep, probably number 1. There was a very famous, he's passed also, Bob Marshall, had a company called Premier Research Labs. And he was one of the top nutritional guys, probably in the world at the time. And he said to me, Robby, he makes the most amazing supplements. He said, the best supplements in the world doesn't hold a candle to a good night's sleep.
Mm.
And that's the top supplement guy talking.
That's beautiful.
Because the regenerative side and just that opportunity for your body to heal while you're sleeping as it's been designed to. So if you don't have good sleeping habits, and that you're already behind the sort of the 8 ball there. And then if you've got the overlay of a toxic environment and potentially your genetic disposition that may show some kind of symptom in a sense, or a reaction to it, not having the restorative sleep to help your body correct itself, really puts you way behind. And it's something we can all learn. And so we have sleep solutions. We have things that we do that support sleep solutions, but the concept of getting a good night's sleep is super important, especially if you're got a chronic challenge. The other thing water is important to me. We have some water solutions, but mostly, these are just epiphanies that's happened to me because I've been very fortunate and to position myself, in a way that I've been surrounded by really intelligent people more than me. So one is a guy named Gerald Pollack who wrote a book called The Fourth Phase of Water. And so I've always been searching for the micro reasons why our technology works so well. I know why it does clinically, but now what is the mechanism? And one of them has to do with structured water. And what is that? The water cells in our body are different than the water cells outside. like in the air. So you've got liquid, solid, and gaseous is what we see in the atmosphere. But inside your body, it's different. And that was what Dr. Pollack had brought forward. So Jerry and I became friends because when I read his book, I reached out to him and then we had a little private session together. And that actually inspired me to make a water system as adjunct to our main infrared stuff, because it's actually the infrared frequencies that structure the water inside your body. And what that does, water connects all the dots inside of you, Nasha. And so if you're looking to improve cell health, cellular health, and the transport system to get nutrients into a cell and for the cell to export its toxic waste, that's methylation, is water. And that water needs to be structured. And the only way it can be structured is by infrared sunlight, the influence of those infrared frequencies. Ta-da!
So divinely designed. And what's so weird about it to me, Robby, is that we have gone so far away from what nature intended and what built-in healing mechanisms when the average American, spends less than 15 minutes outdoors every day. When we've spent the last 50 years telling everyone to cover up and be terrified of the sun, especially between 10 and 2, which is actually where we get our biggest UVB, pulse, when we're, all slaves to our alarm clocks and trying to hit the snooze button to get that extra bit of rest because we're all pushing too hard and we're missing those optimal light windows and we're too busy to go and watch the sunrise or set, like all those pieces. And then we're dehydrated and then the water quality we're drinking is terrible or we're drinking out of plastic. I mean, suddenly you go, of course it's all falling apart because the fundamentals have been completely ignored. And what you're sharing is I love that you're having this conversation right now because you have a company, just like that man who had a supplement company saying the best thing for you is a good night's sleep. You have a pile of amazing toys and tools and devices, and you're telling us to go watch the sunrise, to get sun on our skin, to drink clear quality water. Like that is what I think is so remarkable is, yes, you have these like sexy, fun tools, but man almighty, you got access to the free tools all the time.
Right.
And so you are like my resource when I can't access nature as intended. Right. And so you're not my starting point. You're my supplemental when I can't do it all, like shore it up for myself. And I think that's what's really cool of a lot of the tools that you offer. I mean, people are going to go down lots of rabbit holes with you on, the Therasage site. But when I look at your innovative brain and your heart and your integrity of saying, my gosh, guys, go to the free stuff first, right? You and I have both watched this wellness industry evolve. I don't know how many decades you've been in it. I've been in over 3 at this point. Sometimes beautifully, right? It's why I get to meet people like you. And sometimes a little bit more hype than heart. So what shifts are giving you hope and which ones concern you in this wellness industry?
Okay. So my good friend, Dr. Zach Bush, I listened to him 90%. The world's coming to an end. And then he saves us in the last 4 minutes of his presentation. I look around and, like today I'm in a beautiful place in Michigan and enveloped in a forest. And I never thought that I could feel grounded other than where we live in Florida by the beach and that whole thing, like actually touching the earth. But yet I get it here. And what is it? It's just nature. And it's really what you said and what you've been saying a few times now since we've been together on this call, how nature intended us to be. Mm. And so here we are, Tesla cars and e-bikes and everything's electric and charged, Love the innovations, but it's not how the immersion of us as humans in that environment isn't the way nature intended us to be. And I believe that is why all the chronic trends are still very skyrocketing because we're disconnected to nature. So we're not, and then we're not listening to our signs per se. I'm generalizing, so I'm not coming from a place of judgment, but this is what I see kind of like in the mainstream. And so that is challenging to me. What's inspiring to me is the young people I'm meeting now that are totally embracing this. And where I think storytelling is a kind of like a dying art, like because everybody's too busy on their iOSs, they're not looking up anymore. They're not gazing into the sun and all that. And then we get together and we're the 1%ers, so we speak the same language, you know? So I'm just talking about when I step outside, like it used to bother me and say that Zach's right. We're in a, I think he says it's the 6th or the 7th extinction phase of the planet right now. And then I meet a young guy in his 30s who is, one guy just recently, he's a genetic guy, like he's all about genetics and developed an incredible platform and reads the human genome and understands like how that part of us is connected. And I go, wow, there is, like with all the problems, there's the birth of solutions. And that's really inspiring.
Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Nasha Winters. And if you've ever felt that conferences can be shiny distractions rather than movement builders, you're not alone. That's exactly why Metabolic Health Day Conference is different. This October, we are gathering trailblazers who are shifting the narrative on what health and healing can be. Join me, Dr. Nasha Winters, alongside visionaries like Dr. Zach Bush, Dr. Deborah Davis, Nina Teicholz, Bob Jones, Dr. Mindy Peltz, Dr. Perry Nicholson, Dr. Dawn Huber, Amy Myers, and Katie Deming, and many, many more. Together, we'll explore the metabolic roots of chronic disease through the lens of mitochondria, terrain, and regenerative systems. This isn't about hype or hydrogen chains. It's about building meaningful and science-driven community. Be part of this movement at metabolichealthday.life. Reserve your spot now because real change starts when we gather with a purpose. Ooh, that gives me chills. With all the problems, there's still the gifts of solutions. That just gave me goosies there. And Zach is going to be one of our keynotes for this event as well that we get to share here together, which is
how lucky.
We're going to have so much fun. I know.
Yeah.
How lucky for all of us. Because we're trying to help people remember their true nature. I mean, I think that's ultimately at the end of the day, what Therasage offers is like, we can educate and empower. We have these really cool tools that can help along the way, but ultimately it's within you. You have access to it, just like you have access to that deep wisdom and intuition if you so choose to tap into it. And so, one of the things in your mission, you say you don't teach wellness, you live it. And so can you give me a daily non-negotiable practice that keeps you grounded no matter where you are in the world? I mean, you literally were 22 hours ago in Italy. So like, how do you live what you teach?
I think the key is living what you teach. Okay, I think, for me, I'm complicated, but my approach to healthcare is very minimal, is sort of a minimalistic type of approach. I start my day, I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up when my body tells me it's time to wake up. So I kind of like part of my mission and post Julia and all this, I just realized I'm just a vessel in what I'm doing in my life anyway. And is to understand the current world we're living in and then try to develop technology that brings nature, slows everybody down a little. Like, it's a very fast-paced world, so you can't get out in the sunlight at the right time of day to get the right frequencies to do what it needs to do, because we're not like living in the days of Jesus, Moses, and Buddha in caves and on the land and in tents, So we're living in controlled households with heated air conditioning and heat, and all that stuff. And again, we enjoy the niceties of that, but again, it's away from the way nature intended. So for me, part of one of our mission statements or pillars is to bring nature back into your home through technology that allows you to get back into a sequence or a phase the way nature intended us to be. So harnessing infrared sunlight, putting it in a sauna or on a healing pad or something to get it on your body where you can use it in the convenience of your own home within your lifestyle, to me is the way to mitigate the world we're living in today, in today's world. Mostly in the urban cities. Like when you're out into rural areas, then you have a little different complexity there. But I'm talking about urban environments where, it's fast paced and high carbon footprints and stuff like that.
Yeah. And not even a glimpse of a tree or something living in nature. You're right. It's like a lot of people don't even. I remember going to medical school with a woman who we all went on a camp. There was like a camping excursion we all had to do, and she was petrified. She'd never been camping, and we're all well into our late 20s, early 30s, and it was so foreign and so threatening for her. It was just incredible. That was 25, 30 years ago. Whereas there's a heck of a lot more people just like her today walking than ever before, that just literally have no idea. All right, my friend, are you ready for some rapid fire questions? Some Metabolic Matters lightning round?
I've been strapping myself. I got my seatbelt on. I'm ready to go.
All right, first one. What health myth would you wish would disappear forever?
Surrendering your health plan to an institution like a hospital or a doctor or whatever is the only plan.
Woo! I think that was pretty good. Well done. All right, next one. One change people could make today to reduce their toxic load.
I love catching the morning sunrise and gazing into that first 2 to 3 minutes. I love that one. It resets your circadian rhythm. There's so many powerful things to that first, 2 to 3 minutes of early sun. I think that's a good one.
I love it because it feels like to me like you're saying that just even starting your day that way aligns all of your enzymatic internal pathways to actually deal with the toxic burden of your life. I mean, it's like simple free right there. I love that. That.
Yeah.
Number 3, a book, podcast, or teacher that's influenced your wellness philosophy the most.
Oh, my goodness.
You're a voracious reader. I'm dying to hear this one. Or maybe a couple.
I have 5 books that I read at once, so it's hard to really pin it to one in particular. I like Adia's book on longevity. There are some books that I find that were just tipping points for me.
Interesting.
But I think I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube University. It's got a great search engine. And what I find is that there's a lot of really intelligent TED Talks and things that are out there that are inspiring and don't take a lot of time. And many of the apps that you can get on your phones now take some of the greatest works of people and compress it down to the important meanings, like the 4 or 5 really big messages. There was a book, like I mentioned it earlier, called The Alchemist, that was a life changer for me because, people are running around trying to find purpose and trying to find something that's right under their noses,
And that The Alchemist was Pablo Coelho, correct?
Yes.
And the longevity book you mentioned is Dr. Peter Attia's, a more recent book. I think that's fantastic. I love the idea of kind of just whatever you're curious about, go to YouTube University and start digging, or TED Talk University. I love that because it's you can get those little micro doses of new information.
You're just planting the seeds. It's if you don't have the time or inclination, I always think about the truck driver that's trying to get through his day and, he's got his focused on staying on the road, but can get some audible input. That's the part about technology that I really love. But, everything in proper proportion, I suppose.
I love it. Okay. Number 4, If you could gift every home one healing device or tool, what would it be?
Infrared sauna.
So I sit in mine every morning watching the sunrise with my little ionizing. Oh, actually, I do the ozone when I'm in there. And this morning I thought of you because I knew we were having this talk as I'm sitting in one of your devices. And right now we're having this amazing meteor shower.
Wow.
And at 4:30 this morning, I counted over 30 falling stars. And I just sat there, and my husband, he got up early to go catch a plane to Mexico. So I was up and I thought, I'll take advantage of this, sitting out on my patio, facing out in the east, watching that. And oh my gosh, I just like tears streaming down my face of like, how perfect is this moment? So I love that you say that as a gift, because if everybody could swing it, I would vote for that one too.
You're a rising star, by the way, not a falling star.
Oh, so I'm not thank you, love. I love it. And then finally, the big kahuna. In 3 words, I know I'm asking a lot of you, my dear. In 3 words, how would you describe the future of health?
I think the future of health is in frequencies and vibration.
Just 2. That's pretty juicy. You even did it just in 2 words. And I would actually say a 3rd one for you because you live it, and that is love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But of course, that is frequency and vibration, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I just think that's the future. I really do. I think, the more we look at it's an evolutionary process that we're transitioning through. And as people are ascending, there seems to be a big separation, vibrational separation occurring. I had a dear friend who passed, Steve Sinatra, who...
Father of grounding.
Yeah, he's one of the founders of EMF and grounding and all that. And, he taught me so much, and we grew up in the same neighborhood, and there were so many things about us that I didn't know until I actually met him. And then it was like fantastic.
Brothers from another mother.
Yeah. But what many of the messages there is just that we are looking for, and I think it's probably by design that you get the broad brushstrokes, but I believe that the essence of life is really in the subtle energies, the sunlight, the vibrational applications. And the extractions of those vibrations and importing them to be part, like enveloping us, to enable us to be healthy within our own subset, and then to shed that energy to the closest person to you.
So beautiful. I look forward to being with you very soon at our conference that we're hosting, that you are such a powerhouse, and you'll be sharing your knowledge, you'll be sharing your technologies, your wisdom with hundreds of people in person and thousands of people online, and educating our clinicians and our allied health professionals to know how they too can best support their patients. It's just, you just keep paying it forward, my friend. And so it's an absolute delight that we got to spend a little time together today. I hope that you and Melody get a little of your jet lag over, but you have all the right tools. You know what to do to bring those cells, bring them back into this time zone as quickly and effectively as possible. But I just thank you for being you.
Thank you. Thank you for creating a platform and allowing us to share our ideas together. And, you're quite amazing in your own right. And pioneering, earlier I used the word unwavering, and I know that you've had your own roadblocks here and there. You can't be in a position that you are and not, especially as you defined your own journey. And I just love you for what you do and how you bring it to the world. And yeah, keep doing it. Good stuff.
Let's keep our frequency and our vibrations going at full speed ahead.
There we go.
Thanks, Robby.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
What Robby shared today is a reminder that healing is not linear. It's not a linear checklist, especially. It's a living, breathing relationship between science, soul, and all the spaces we inhabit. His journey shows what's possible when innovation is born from love and guided by integrity. For our listeners, if you want to explore infrared therapy and more, and learn more about detoxification, or simply be inspired by what's possible in wellness innovation, please check out the links in the show notes to Therasage's work. And if today's conversation spoke to you, please share it, subscribe, and leave a review, because your voice helps ripple these ideas into the world. Until next time, keep tending to your body, your mind, and your terrain, both inside and out. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Metabolic Matters. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new exciting episode. Drop your thoughts or questions in the comments, as we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to check the description below for show notes, guest links, and additional resources to support you and your journey. You can always follow us on Instagram and across social media at Metabolic Matters for updates, insights, and behind-the-scenes content. And a heartfelt thank you to Julie Newmark and Whiskey Flower for the beautiful music that brings this show to life. Until next time, stay empowered, stay curious, and keep metabolizing what matters.